Yo, y'all know what time it is. Another episode of Brothers Got Next. It's your boy D, and as always, I'm joined by my partner in crime, Kwab. What up, man?
What's going on, man?
Yeah, man. Another exciting week of NFL news, and we got the divisional round coming up this weekend. Getting down to the nitty gritty, to the grind. 3 weeks away is the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? It's a good time, but it's also a sad time because football is coming to an end. And then we got to wait like another 7 months. You know what I mean?
Off season is long.
It is. Because they have the longest off season, correct?
Between the four pro sports, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, I do get excited for the draft, which is cool. I start to get excited like in late July, August, because I know preseason's coming like, oh, yeah, it's coming. You know what I mean? The other months is like, yeah, ain't really much.
Like May and June are just dead. There's no June is the worst NFL.
Except for the end of July, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, so it ain't much, but but yeah, man, let's get right into it, man. Divisional round, Saturday games. We're gonna start with the Saturday games. So the first game, Texans at Chiefs. Give me your winner, your thoughts on the game.
Yep, same old, yeah. Yeah, I can't really see a scenario where the Texans just straight up win. I could see a scenario where they make it competitive.
Mm-hmm.
The only minor concern I have with the Chiefs is they've had a lot of time off. Mahomes hasn't played a snap since Christmas Day. That's a while ago. That's when they beat the Steelers. So it's been a minute, and historically we've seen teams, look a little rusty when they've had a long layoff. Heck, even if they just had 1 week off after a bye going into the playoffs, they've looked a little rusty. So that's my only concern. Are the Chiefs going to get off to a fast start, and can the Texans capitalize if they do? I'm still a little skeptical on the Texans and their ability to score quickly, especially in Kansas City. And of course, their offensive line, although they played well against the Chargers, they still have some issues there. And of course, Chris Jones and those guys are licking their chops to take advantage of that. So I'm gonna go Kansas City here, but I don't think it's a lopsided game. I think maybe they win by 8 or 9. I would say like a 28-21, 28-20 kind of score. But I'm gonna go Kansas City to advance to the title game once again.
Yeah, I don't think the Chiefs have any issues. I mean, I hear what you're saying about the layoff, but I think the Texans winning last week was more bad Chargers, and we overrating the Chargers than the Texans really like, oh, man, the Texans, they could do something. Now, I think it's just the team they play. They were at home as well. You know what I mean? Now they're going to KC. It's going to be cold out there, so weather's going to be a factor. I'm not going to doubt Mahomes, Kelsey, and Reed.
Yeah.
They've been here, done that. They've gone through kind of every different kind of scenario when it comes to the playoffs. So I think they win pretty comfortably. I think this is a 10 to 2 touchdown kind of game win for the Chiefs. I don't really see them having much of an issue. Like you said, the Texans may make it interesting in the beginning, maybe the first quarter. Like you said, you may see a little rust from KC, and I can see the Texans going on maybe 3-0, 7-0, but just give it to maybe about the second quarter once Mahomes kind of, gets settled in. And like you said, Chris Jones and those boys get after that bad Texans O-line. I think by halftime, I think the Chiefs are up by at least 10. And then they'll put it away probably like third quarter where we're like, yeah, this is what we thought it would be. So
Yeah, and I just feel like if the Chiefs attempt for a three-peat is going to end, I don't see it ending to the Texans. I see it ending they lost to Buffalo, man, they lost to Baltimore. Like, wow, these are teams that have been on the rise that have been right in the mix for years. I don't see it being. Plus, if you're the winner of the Buffalo Ravens game, you're going to get if the Houston wins, you're going to be like, wow, we didn't even have to get through Mahomes to get to the Super Bowl.
Right.
Houston's going to come to our crib. So, going to be very interesting to see how those two teams kind of go at it if the Texans pull off an upset, which I don't see it. Now it's the playoffs. We've seen crazy things happen before, but yeah, I'm agreeing with everything you said. I could also see it being a double-digit one, but I do think it's close early on, and like I said, the Texans make it a little interesting.
Yeah, and I just think you're giving Andy Reid, and even though they have a lot of time off, you're getting Andy Reid all this time to prepare. The Texans are coming off, a regular week. They just have,
I guess essentially they had the same amount of time to prepare, right? Like but
they played on Saturday, right? And then they're playing on that Saturday. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I'm just saying Reid, obviously because they had that bye,
right?
You know what I mean? And I'm sure, of course, I know what you're saying. They were watching all the games to see who they were going to play. but I think that's why you have scouts in the organization. They're
That's
scouting
true.
every team.
That's
So,
true.
like, I'm sure they were scouting Houston just in case,
Yeah, good point.
days before, you know what I mean, they played. It was like, okay, this is what, and of course you watch the game to kind of see, oh, what are they doing? What are they,
Yeah,
kind of stuff. But, yeah, like I said, man, I mean, Andy Reid, Mahomes, Kelsey, they've been through this, man. They,
been there, done that, bro.
exactly. They've been through kind of every scenario, everything you could think of. I don't think anything's going to phase them. Like I said, yeah, you're right. It may take them a little time to kind of get settled in because, like you said, they haven't really played since Christmas Day.
Mhm.
But like I said, just give us like the second quarter. So I don't want people to be blowing up my phone in the first quarter, like, oh, Texas up 7-0, 3-0. Calm down. Give it like a quarter or
Yeah.
so, or maybe a half, and then like I said, by the third quarter, they'll be in control.
Well, we know no lead is really safe. Now, this Kansas City Chiefs team is not as explosive as
Mm-hmm.
ones of the past, like Tyreek Hill. Um, but we know that they're never out. Like, you really got to be ahead like double digits in the fourth. Like, oh, damn, the Chiefs are like
Right,
legit in
right.
trouble. But, I've been saying all season, I don't think this is the same level of Chiefs team. We'll see how that looks starting this weekend. Now, I expect them to win, but I think the week after that, they're going to get a very, very, very revved up Bills or Ravens team. So yeah, we'll
Mm-hmm.
see.
No doubt, no doubt. Now, this is the game I'm looking forward to. This next game, the nightcap on Saturday, Commanders at Lions.
Ooh, that's gonna be
I'm
good.
looking forward to that. Like, yeah, listen, we live in the DMV. People are hyped over here,
They should be, and they
and they
should
should
be.
be. Right? No, I was
Yeah,
gonna say
they
that, and they
should be.
should be. Like,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of fans are hyped. I've been seeing a lot of money, a lot of betting on the Commanders. Like
Oh,
people,
I don't know about that.
yeah, no, but I'm saying though, they're saying
Yeah.
the public's betting the Commanders a lot. I think people are not really saying like the Lions are like a lock or shoe-in because you saw how the Commanders play. They were the only road team to win last week. You know what I
Which is
mean?
crazy. Yeah.
And
Well, I guess that's not that crazy, but
you
yeah,
see
it's
how Jaden
surprising.
Daniels is playing. I mean, I don't want to. People been saying, I don't want to take it as far as the Lamar talk. Everybody's like, well, this you may be seeing the NFC version of Lamar Jackson, but I mean, he's played well. He's looked good. And the one thing I do know is that Detroit defense has problems with mobile quarterbacks. So this is going to be an interesting test. Now, obviously, the Washington D is to me not going to be as like a threat to the Lions offense because the Lions,
No,
the
at
Washington
all.
D is like
Yeah.
middle of the pack, more
Yeah.
closer to like you know bottom 15, into that late teens, early 20 range. So yeah, but man, give me your thoughts. What you think? You know what I mean? How you
Well,
think
you
the game
just gave
goes?
a great whole. You might as well give you a pick. You pretty much broke
Oh,
the
give
whole
my pick.
thing.
I think this is going to be a better game than the Chiefs Texans game. Like
Yeah.
I know how you said you think they'll keep it close. I think Commanders will keep it close. I actually think they'll keep it close throughout, probably late third, even into the fourth. But I think in the end, the Lions will pull it out because I just think the Lions will do enough against that Commanders D. Because I'm still not big on the Commanders D. Like they played well last week. You know what I mean?
Although Tampa kind of screwed up with that fumble, that
Thank
turn.
you. I was going to say that because I'm thinking in my head. I was telling a Commanders fan. I wasn't trying to hate. He was, "Oh, you hating?" I was like, "Well, if Baker doesn't fumble that ball, who knows what happens, right? Like,
And the Bucks were up.
and they're up, correct, right? So we don't know what would have happened, right?
Yeah.
Now they're playing a team where, first of all, if the Lions go up early and they're up like double digits, the Commanders, yeah, that's not a good sign. The Commanders have to keep it close. Like I told somebody that at work, I said, Commanders have to keep it close throughout because if they go down 10, they go down 14, they're not coming back.
Okay.
Not against the Lions, and they're starting to get healthy too. I'm sure you heard
Yeah.
a lot of their defensive players who were out on IR are coming back. They got David Montgomery coming back, who had missed the last like 4 games. So yeah, they're getting healthy at the right time. So like I said, I think for the Commanders, they got to keep it close, and I think they will. But I think in the end, once we get to like late third into the fourth, I think the Lions will start to kind of take control, and you know what I mean. I can see the Lions winning by like a touchdown, but they'll have that buffer. They'll be ahead where it's like it's comfortable. Where they're not worried about the Commanders like making a comeback. And that Detroit, I mean, has become one of the hardest places to play in. That crowd is nuts. It's rocking in there. So I don't think the Commanders have all season seen anything like that before. So, and like I said, Jaden Daniels is still a rookie. While he's playing well, he's still a rookie. And sometimes that rookie wall or that bad rookie, whatever you want to call it, comes into play when you least expect it. So we'll see. It'll be interesting, but I like the Lions to win by at least a touchdown.
Yeah, I don't think this game's going to be as close. I like the Lions all the way through.
So
The
you be
Lions
the opposite. We the
Lions
opposite.
are a whole other. That's a whole other monster, man. Going into that arena as a rookie, and that's going to be a lot. I know he's had a really good rookie year, but we've seen rookies be looked overwhelmed. I mean, it happens. I think his time is finally going to come up where Detroit is a machine on offense. I haven't seen enough from the Commanders' defense to make me confident that they'll be able to keep pace. Because here's the thing: the Lions can potentially score on every possession. That's how good they are.
Yeah,
Every single
yeah.
play. Now we've seen the Commanders do that a couple times this year, right? Where they haven't punted, which is very impressive. But I don't know, man. One thing about the Lions defense is they do bend a little bit, but they're very opportunistic as well, which I like opportunistic defenses, especially when it comes to a rookie, even though the rookie's playing pretty well. But yeah, I see this being one of those 38-20, 38-27, 38-23. I don't think the Lions are going to have too many issues, man. I'm rolling with Detroit, Motor City, baby.
No doubt, no doubt. Now we got the Sunday games. Now this next game, suppose it's gonna be played in the snow.
Oh,
Obviously, we're supposed to get snow here in the DMV area, but also in Philadelphia. So Rams at Philly. Yeah, like I said, reports are that this game will be played in the snow. It's supposed to be snowing
mm-hmm.
during the game. I mean, I'm gonna favor the Eagles because they're the East Coast team, they're the home team, even though it's going to be snowing, because both teams are going to probably have to run,
Yeah.
right? But the Rams are a West Coast. They got to fly over here. It's going to be cold. They're used to playing in a dome. Now they're going to be outside. I think that's going to be a big factor. I do think the game is close just because of the weather and both
Yeah.
teams having to run the ball. But of course, I'm going to take Saquon over Kyron Williams. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going. Let's be real here. So I mean, with that being said, I think it's gonna be a low scoring game, a sloppy game because of the snow. But I think the Eagles just do enough to win. I know they didn't play well. I know a lot of people criticizing them during the week that they didn't play well, in the wild card game against the Packers. But again, I think they do enough. I think Saquon has a big game because he's gonna have to because they're gonna give him the ball a lot because they're really gonna be able to throw in that weather. Um, yeah, I just think the Eagles will just do enough. They'll control the game pretty much throughout. They may not blow out the Rams, but I
Hmm.
can see this game being like a 17-7 game, 17-10.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know what I mean? Low scoring. It's gonna be because of the weather, but I think Philly will still control the game and do enough to win where you're like, oh yeah, they're good. So yeah, I like the Eagles.
Hmm. This one's hard for me. The weather is a factor, like you said. I just love how like battle tested the Rams are. Now, of course, the Eagles have been to a Super Bowl recently too,
Mhm.
so I kind of want to pick the Rams. I
Really?
do. Yeah, a little upset, but because for me, the inconsistency of the Eagles' passing game, I feel like is eventually going to hurt them. And I like the speed and the aggressiveness of the Rams defense. They played really well against a good Minnesota offense last week. I'm gonna go upset. I'm gonna go Rams. I'm gonna say Rams 23-20. It's gonna be close. It's gonna be a close spot out, a close game. I just think when that passing game for the Rams get going, they complement it with the running game. I like McVay as a schemer, as a play caller. I could be wrong because now remember they played the Rams earlier this year and Saquon had like crazy numbers. He had like over 200
Yeah.
yards. Doesn't mean it's going to happen again, but especially yes, I'm not saying that they have the same level of running back, but I think Williams is going to be able to kind of get things going a little bit against a really good Eagles defense. But yeah, it's just more of a gut with this one. I'm gonna go Rams. I think the Rams pull off the upset.
Yeah, the only reason, like I said, I disagree with you is just because the weather's going to be a big factor. I don't think either team is going to be able to throw. So if you're asking me if they only going to be able to throw, let's just say for the sake of argument, Hurts and Stafford can probably throw 20 or less times, right? Because it's just because of the weather, and they have to really run the ball, right? Then I'm going with the better running back, and I'm going
Well,
with the better defense. Like the Eagles defense is number one in the league. So I'm going to go with that and the running game. It's going to be an ugly game. Like I said, I don't see this. I don't even know if they'll get to the 20s. Like I said, I see it like 17-10, 17-7, And like I said, I just think the Eagles are going to control the game. You know what I mean? I just don't see how the Rams score like that. Like, yeah, they'll probably score with Williams as the running back, but how many times is he going to do that? You know what I mean?
Well, I don't think Stafford's incapable of passing in bad weather. Like he has a good enough arm. I don't think now unless it's a full out blizzard, which I haven't seen that. I don't expect him to be extremely limited as a passer. So I still think he's going to be able to make enough plays to two physical type receivers with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, who obviously slowed down a little bit, but. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like I just feel like the lack of inconsistency, the inconsistency, excuse me, with the Eagles passing game just might be an issue here. Because if you're saying like, all right, let's put 8 in the box to stop Saquon and just play, and now it's going to be playing man against the Eagles is never easy either. But I don't think Jalen is necessarily a huge threat with his arm. And if you're saying that it's going to be an ugly, low-scoring game, that means to me it can go either way. Like if we're talking 17-10, 17-13, that's one turnover. That's one play that turns that game, the momentum of that game around. So also could be dead wrong. Could be the Eagles big.
Right. See, I would more agree with you next week. Like I'm just going off the picks we made, right? The Lions, if the Eagles have, go to the Lions next week for the championship game. That I will agree with you. I think that's when the inconsistency of Hurts and the passing game will come into play. Because now you're going into the Lions' den, you're going into a dome where they're pretty much like almost unbeatable, and you're gonna have to be tat for tat with them. Right. Then I will 100% agree with you next week. Like, oh yeah, I would give the Eagles no chance in the Lions game because I'd be like, well, they're not keeping up in the track meet. If the Lions are scoring 30-something points, Eagles ain't scoring on 30-something points. So, and I would agree with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I actually think I will say if the Rams were to upset, I think the Rams have a better shot against the Lions next week than they would against the Eagles. You know what I mean? Than the Eagles would against them.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I'll give you that. Like if the Rams, end up if you end up being right and they upset the Eagles, yeah, they got a shot because Stafford and that offense can go toe to toe with, you know what I mean, with Goff. But yeah, Hurts, no. I give them zero chance if they win the game.
You think it's a zero chance they win in Detroit?
Zero. And as much as I look at their defense, it doesn't matter with Detroit because they put up points on good defenses. Like they've done it all this year. They put up points on good defense. So it's not like even though the Eagles are the number one D, they're gonna shut them down or shut them out, and not in Detroit, not at their house. Nah, I just don't see it. Because I think to beat Detroit in a way, you're going to have to go a little bit of toe for toe. You know what I mean?
You do.
It's just reality. You know what I mean? And you're talking about an inconsistent passing game. Yeah, that ain't going to get it done against Detroit. If you talking about it's inconsistent and Goff over there throwing 3-4 touchdowns by the fourth quarter, and you look up and Hurts barely throwing one, yeah, it ain't gonna look good.
It's interesting how like styles matter, right? Because there aren't too many teams you wouldn't pick the Eagles to beat outside of Detroit. Like you feel like they could beat anybody else. It's just Detroit.
Oh yeah. Because I think they could beat the Rams. I think they could beat the Commanders. I mean, they beat them throughout they split, but they can beat the Commanders. You know what I mean? And there's such that familiarity. Yeah, but Detroit, nah. Because Detroit, you have to go. You have to that offense. You're going to have to go toe to toe a little bit. Like maybe not the whole game, but it may be a quarter or half. You're going to be like, is this a shootout? Like they going tat for tat, and they want that.
They're such an efficient offense. Like Goff will be like 15 for 18 passing in the first half. Like, geez, like they complete every pass.
Exactly.
So, yeah. But I do think, the Commanders, to me, the Commanders can do that. Like they can kind of match you point for point. They've proven that. I don't know if they're going to be able to do it at the same pace as the Lions, but I understand why you think that that's going to be tough for the Lions.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What'd you say? Tough for the Lions or Commanders?
No, I'm saying I can understand why you think the Commanders will be tough for the Lions. Like they can kind of keep pace a little bit. They're going to be
Exactly.
able to
Yeah,
keep
yeah,
pace.
they have the capability to do that. You know what I mean? Because first
Yeah.
of all, Jay, he can throw and run. You know what I'm saying? So he
Yeah.
can do both. He's a threat on both, passing and running. So yeah, he just by himself can do it. But yeah, Hurts, if they go in there, like I said, they're gonna have to rely on their D. And yeah, I mean the D may make some stops, but
Mhm.
I mean, I still see the Lions that put up at least 28 points. They're gonna put up at least 4 touchdowns. And it's
At
like, can the
least.
Eagles do that? Yeah, can the
If the
Eagles
Lions
go?
only put up 28 points, I'd be surprised. They're like that's like 30s easily for me.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. So like I said, I know you said you like the Rams and the upset, but I think the Eagles will take care of business this week.
Yeah.
But next week, yeah, maybe not so much.
If the Lions take care of business.
The Lions take care of business. That's true. That's the Lions take care of business, and a lot of people hope they don't around here. So
All right. It'd be
yeah.
amazing if the Commanders get to the title game.
Oh
Amazing. That'd be
man.
amazing. That'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
In
Yeah.
a way, even though obviously I'm a Cowboy fan, they're on division. They always been like a little sister to me, but
A
I
little
would
sister.
I
What do you
wouldn't
mean, little
mind
brother, a
seeing
little
it.
sister?
Yeah, we call them a little sister. Yeah, but I would actually not mind seeing that. Just good for this area. I mean, they haven't seen it since the early '90s and
Oh my
late '80s,
gosh. Yeah.
so yeah, like it would be good. So I wouldn't mind seeing it, but the chances are very
Yeah, they've
slim.
been good. They've been good since Gibbs.
Well, yeah, you're right. That's
That's a long
a true
time
statement you just
ago.
said. Yeah, yeah, that's
Bill
like a
Gibbs,
true
man.
statement you just said.
He's like
Yeah,
90. Yeah, he's up there.
yeah. That's when we were good. When the Cowboys were good. That's a
Yeah,
long
we're
time.
good.
Yeah, but anyway, all right, man. Now we get into the best game of the weekend, bro. Yeah, I know this is going to be interesting. Who we pick on this one?
Oh
Ravens
yeah.
at Bills. This
What an
also has
awesome game.
weather implications. I don't know if so. They
Yeah.
showed a shot of Buffalo this week. The whole stadium was filled with snow. So
Yeah. We know
apparently
that
that
don't slow down Josh Allen. We know that. He's throwing in the
exactly.
snow.
Well, I don't think it's going to snow during the game, but I know it's going to
Yeah.
be very cold and
It's gonna be
it's
like
going to be running
single
into
digits, I think. Yeah.
yeah. So that's going to be a factor. But Lamar obviously plays in Baltimore where it gets cold, so I don't think that's going to even
It's not
affect him as
Buffalo
much.
cold, but it's cold. Yeah, it's
It's
not.
cold. Yeah, it's cold. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
What I mean is like they ain't coming from the West Coast and going there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, man, I'm gonna let you start this off first, man.
Yeah.
What do you think and who you got?
I like Baltimore. I
Okay.
think I don't know, man. We haven't had a chance to really talk about this yet. Obviously, my followers on IG saw that I went to the Ravens Steelers game in Baltimore, and
Yeah.
there's just like there's a level of confidence and just energy with that team. The way Derrick Henry's running the ball, Lamar's playing the best football of his career, and I think to me the issue with this matchup for Buffalo is I just don't think they match them talent just on a personnel level. Like I just think the Ravens are just a much more talented team on both sides of the ball. We've seen we've seen Buffalo's defense give up a lot of points over the last month or two. I mean, I remember even the game that they won in Detroit. I mean, they gave up 40 something points. I'm forgetting top of my head who were some of the other teams they played, but they just they tend to bend a lot, and that's not an offense you want to bend against. So at the if you look at the Bills as of late, they allowed 44 points to the Rams, 42 points to the Lions. So that's a bit concerning to me. And with that said, I just don't think I think slowing down Derrick Henry in that weather is going to be he's not. It's weird because when he's running, he doesn't seem like the fastest dude, but nobody ever catches him. It's so weird. I'm watching the Steelers game, I'm like, yo, catch him. Like he's not that fast, but he always
No, but I mean,
outruns people.
it's like once he gets to that like second level,
Yeah, it's over. It's
it's a
over.
wrap. Yeah,
And then
you
he'll
got to
step
get
arm the
that.
hell out of you.
You
Yeah.
got to get him in that backfield like first level. Like the front line has to get him. If they get him, if they most of the time when he gets stopped, it's mostly that first level they stop him. Like
Second level. And my thing is too, and look, I've never coached football. I'm not, I'm not claiming to know more than these coaches or these players do, but why are you trying to tackle Derrick Henry upper body? Like, Minka Fitzpatrick's trying to tackle him. I'm like, bro, you got to go for his legs. He's always going to stiff arm the hell out of you. So these DBs don't stand a chance. Now, I'll say for the 80th time on this podcast how much I love Josh Allen. I just feel like it's going to be a daunting task to ask him to carry a team that doesn't necessarily have an explosive receiver. Now, James Cook has been playing really well, but the Ravens are also number one against the run. So that means it's really going to have to be Josh Allen carrying the team on his back. And I just don't think it's just going to be asking for him to do a little too much, especially against a Ravens defense that's been playing great over the last month. Mm-hmm. I just think all the signs point towards Baltimore. I'm rooting hard for the Bills, but I think all the signs point towards Baltimore taking this one. And honestly, man, they kind of have the look of a team that's going to go all the way. I really do feel that way about Baltimore, but I'm going to take Baltimore here.
Everything in my body is saying to agree with you because obviously, they beat Baltimore in the season, but was it 35-10? They killed them. Now that was in Baltimore.
I think it was even worse than that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was in Baltimore. It was in Baltimore. But I don't know, man. And this is kind of like how you have the gut about the Rams. I just have a funny feeling that we're going to see Superman out there. Josh Superman.
He's awesome.
Excuse my language. Josh Allen gonna do some Superman shit, and we're gonna be like, this dude is the truth. Like,
he's awesome.
Yeah, like I agree. They don't really have a number one receiver. You know what I mean?
They got like a bunch of like 2s and 3s.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but I don't know, man. I just he gonna pull out some magic, and we just gonna be watching all like, like this dude is the truth. Like, don't get me wrong. I think it's gonna be a great game. I actually think it's gonna be close.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
Come down to the wire. Yeah. I just have a funny feeling. It's just a gut feeling that Josh is gonna just do something like, okay, like we know he's a ride, but this is gonna be his like, oh yeah, this is he's a ride moment. Like, okay, that's.
Like he means business.
Yeah, this is like Mahomes-esque. Like we're starting to see how he is. Like he's the next, Mahomes kind of thing. Like he could put a team on his back and just.
And we've seen that from him. We've seen that from him.
It don't matter. Like, give me whatever receiver. Give me whatever tight end. Give me whatever running back. I'm good. It's me. I can do this myself. You know what I mean? And I think why it's going to be a great game because you have two mobile quarterbacks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They have to obviously watch out for Lamar, but then the Ravens also have to watch out for him because he don't stay in the pocket, and he's like a guarantee on 4th and 1 or any short yardage because just how big and strong he is. Like he don't get stopped, so it's like it's going to be a heavyweight bout, but
it's going to be awesome.
But I think this is a high scoring game. I think it's like
This is going to be a classic. It's going to be a classic.
I think it's like 38-35 or even like 42-35 Bills. I think
it's
Josh is going to like show y'all something. Like Lamar going to do something crazy. He's going to be like, okay, watch this. Like, you think he does something? I got an answer for that. And it's going to be like, uh-oh.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So if the Cowboys are looking for a new quarterback, you have your Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are free agents. Who do you want?
Wow, that's tough. I might slightly take Josh just because I think Josh has a better arm.
Okay, and Lamar has a good arm. Yeah.
Better than Lamar. Lamar has a good arm. His arm is good. It's nothing like spectacular.
Yeah, it's good. I mean? It's a good arm.
It's good, right? But Josh, you said it on the show. That boy can throw like when he throw that 60 yards. Like, oh my God!
I mean, he has one of the best arms we've ever seen.
Exactly. So just because Josh has a little bit of an arm than Lamar, I probably would take Josh. You know what I mean?
One thing I like about Josh,
and they're both mobile, so I can't say, I'll take Lamar because of the mobile. Because Josh is mobile. Josh can do it too.
And he never gets hurt. I feel like he's just very durable.
Yeah, he's so strong.
And he gets hit a lot.
Josh slightly, Lamar is great. I mean. Lamar is awesome, you know what I mean? But I probably would take Josh slightly. That's why the gut feeling is that Josh is going to show. Because come on, you don't think Josh is saying those talks that Lamar's the favorite to win? I mean, he's hearing that.
Yeah,
And
man.
that's registering him like, okay. And they come in our house now. Like we know what happened during the season. That game is over. This is a new game. You know what I mean? So he's
Yeah.
hearing that. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, it's gonna be a classic. It's gonna be a good one.
I don't, I only pull out full names when it's a serious matter, but Joshua Patrick Allen, please come through. Listen, come through for us. We need you. You know how much I rock with you, man. I need you to be Superman this weekend. All right. He's probably gonna see this clip. Maybe he'll be on. Maybe he'll be on YouTube and like, oh, what's brother's got next? What's this? He clicks on it.
If you've seen the clip, come on our show, Josh. We'd love to have you as a guest.
If you don't come on our show, just retweet it or something.
Yeah. You see this? Yeah, come on as a guest. That's what we really want. Yeah,
That'd be awesome. But yeah, man, I'm gonna go Baltimore, but I hope that I am super wrong. But yeah, obviously I don't want to ever be biased on this pod. I just feel like Baltimore is playing with a level of momentum I haven't seen them play with in a long time. But it's gonna be an awesome game, man. We're gonna watch that together.
No, so it's funny because I know we've already talked about us doing the whole do the once a month thing. I would but it's supposed to snow on Sunday. You know that, right? You heard?
Yeah, I don't know about this East Coast weather.
Because I don't want you to come in and you like stuck, and it's like, oh damn, I came here to watch the game and now I'm stuck here. You know what I mean? So
we'll link up title game weekend.
Yeah, for sure. But I also heard it's supposed to snow that weekend too. But we'll see. That's what they're saying now. But look at you, are shaking your head. Yeah. Anyway, man, let's get into some big NFL news that happened this week. Of course, it's my team. Jerry
You're always in the news. I love it.
Jerry loves to kill the spotlight in the playoffs, especially when he's not in the playoffs, to kill the spotlight from all the teams that are actually winning and doing something. Then he likes to come and throw his.
I love it.
Yeah, so of course, as all of you heard, unless you've been under a rock somewhere, the Cowboys fired their head coach, Mike McCarthy, after 5 seasons. Obviously, they couldn't come to terms on the length of the deal. I think McCarthy wanted another 5-year deal, and I think Jerry.
I wouldn't do that either.
Jerry wanted something in the three-year range. So the Cowboys are now looking for a new coach. I know you've heard all the speculation of Dion. And I'm sure today, we're taping this today, which is a Thursday. Today it was reported that basically, they're saying people close to Dion said if he was offered the job that he would take it.
I've seen that, yeah.
And he would not hesitate. He actually would take it. But then there was another report that came out after, I would say Fox Sports, who said that Dion's actually not the favorite, and that it's the Eagles' offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, familiarity already being in Dallas. Dak, he was with Dak for a lot of years, where Dak had some of his best years.
Yeah, he did.
As a quarterback.
Yep.
So that's another name that's been thrown out there. They're also going to be interviewing Robert Saleh, I believe, either this week or next week. So yeah, man, let me get your thoughts first about the whole situation, and then I'll give my take. So because you're not a fan of the Cowboys, so you can obviously be non-biased and looking from the outside, looking at just from a general NFL fan. How do you see this situation ending and shaping out, and who do you think the Cowboys ultimately really need as a coach, and who they will hire as a coach?
Yeah, the Dion thing is interesting to me because for me it feels more like a PR thing. Like I'm not really like, ooh, like is he gonna come in like his X's and like he's gonna game plan?
Right.
No diss to Dion, he's one of the greatest of all time, but I don't think he's gonna be that kind of coach. Like I think he's more of a, and which is fine. I mean, Mike Tomlin is similar in a lot of ways where they oversee things. Like they call them like a CEO coach, for example, which I don't think that's a bad thing. If you have your coordinators in place, that's fine. But I don't know. The Dion thing just seems like a big PR hit to me. Like, oh, if we get Dion here, the Cowboys are going to have viewers every Sunday. I don't care who their coach is. So I don't know what the goal would be for hiring Dion, unless you really do think like he's going to be able to tighten up that defense. Obviously he's a culture guy too, but I don't. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't necessarily think the Cowboys have had any cultural issues.
Yeah, they have. What do you mean? Well, you don't have any culture. Let
me finish real quick. Jerry Jones is going to always have say in a lot of things, but I just feel like, you have a quarterback who's a really good locker room guy, so there's no issues there. CeeDee Lamb is not really like a big talker. I guess Micah Parsons has kind of a big personality, but I wouldn't necessarily say that like it's on George Pickens level or anything like that. So
Right.
yeah, I think from a cultural standpoint, I haven't necessarily heard any crazy drama like outside of Jerry Jones just being Jerry Jones. You can correct me if I'm wrong with that.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to correct you because I just think Jerry creates a bad culture for the things he does. Right. Like obviously, and you don't have to even read reports. Like it's been known that Jerry, anytime he's had a coach, the coach obviously wants to be the voice, right, and control the team. So, like for instance, let's just say for example, a player may go to Dion and Dion tells him one thing, but because Jerry has that open door policy with the players, they go to Jerry and then Jerry says something different. Well, obviously they're going to go for what Jerry says because he's the owner. He makes the decision. So then that kind of takes power away from Dion. So that's not a good culture to have because, correct me if I'm wrong, like ain't nobody on the Steelers going up to Rooney saying, "Hey, y'all got to get rid of Mike Tom." Oh, I'm not feeling what Mike Tomlin's doing. Rooney's probably going to be like, "You gonna get out of my office, and whatever the coach says, Tomlin says, you do." And that's most organizations. The Cowboys are the only organization where the owner, as you just said yourself, has final say in everything. He has say in everything. Like for instance, hiring the coach, right? So there's other reports that even if he hires Dion or whoever he hires, he's also going to hire the coordinators. Whereas like most coaches say, okay, you hire the coach, and they bring their own coordinators. Like, oh, well, I'm going to bring blah 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 in, this person in. They don't. The owner doesn't hire the coordinators, so
I've never heard that before. I've never heard that before.
So he's already doing that. Well, he's the one that hired Zimmer. Mike McCarthy didn't bring Zimmer in. That was Jones. Because remember, Mike Zimmer used to be on the Cowboys. He was a defensive coordinator back in, I think it was during the Parcells year. So yeah, that's Jerry Jones. So when you say they have a huge cultural problem. Now you're right. As far as the players, they don't like. Mike is a big personality, but like you said, right, he's not on Pickens level. CD is not really right. He's not a diva person. I mean, he gets a little frustrated sometimes, but he's not like you said on George Pickens level. And then Dak. He's very even keel. Like he doesn't really cause any drama. He doesn't say anything crazy. Yeah. So you're right on that aspect. But as far as the culture, yeah, it's still a messed up culture. And I guess to piggyback off what you're saying with Dion, I agree with you on every point with Dion. I actually don't think they're going to hire Dion. I'm going to just say that out flat. I don't think they're going to hire Dion. I think they're going to go and this is just my gut feeling. And, I've been a Cowboy fan for a long time, so I kind of know how their tendencies are and what they kind of look for in a coach. Jerry looks for a yes man, and the yes man is Kellen Moore. I think they're going to end up hiring Kellen Moore.
Would you like that hire?
No, because I think he's going to be another Garrett. I just think he's going to be another yes man. Now, will he improve the offense? Sure, the offense will be great. He knows nothing about D, so they're going to have to get a D coordinator, which I guess Jerry's going to have to hire that because Kellen Moore's not hiring a D coordinator. He's not bringing in a D coordinator. So off the bat, it's already going to be problems because you're hiring Kellen Moore, who is not going to really bark back at you. You know what I mean? Because I don't know if you've ever seen Kellen Moore talk. He's very soft spoken. He doesn't really talk a lot. He's very soft spoken, very doesn't talk a lot. So I just see Jerry liking that more because he knows, oh, well, he just do what I want. You know what I mean? Like I can just make decisions for him, and yeah, he'll just go coach the offense, make sure the offense is good. I'll get him a good D coordinator, and we'll be good. You know what I mean? So I don't like the hire because I just think Kellen Moore is going to end up being just like another Jason Garrett. Now I don't know if he'll be there as long as Jason Garrett, but I just have a gut feeling that's who they're going to go with. They're going to hire him. So I don't even think the Dion thing. I agree with you. I think it's more of a PR, and Jerry's like, "Ooh, look at us! Like, let me take attention away from the playoffs." So let me mention Dion. First of all, Jerry's never hired a black coach, and I would be shocked that he ever hires a black coach. You know what I mean? It's just certain organizations who have never had a black coach, where I'd be like, "Wow, I just don't see it." So
I think it depends on the candidate. Hypothetically, I might be wrong, but I think hypothetically, if like Tomlin was available and was interested in the Cowboys job, I don't think Jerry Jones is gonna be like, nah. I think it'd be like, yeah, I'll hire Mike Tomlin. I think he would. I think it depends on the coach. Now, there ain't too many examples I have, unfortunately, of black coaches that have.
You know why I'm gonna say you're wrong? So they're supposed to be. Oh, that's another person. They're interviewing Leslie Frazier.
He always gets interviewed, though. He never gets.
But let me tell you why. Jerry's only doing that to do the Rooney Rule. He did it last year with 5 years ago with Marvin. When we hired McCarthy, he had interviewed Marvin Lewis. It's only to do that the Rooney Rule. Oh, I gotta interview a minority coach. Like he's not doing it. Like again, he's gonna hire somebody that is gonna be a yes man where he still has all the attention. Dion, Cowboys fans need to get that. If Dion come there, ain't nobody thinking about Jerry. It's gonna be all about Dion because Dion gonna have the mic, the sound mic, and that's the only person that can come in there and be bigger than Jerry. Jerry ain't having that. Jerry's.
So you think just based off of that, he wouldn't hire Dion? Because I don't think with Dion it would be a black-white thing because Dion is a beloved Cowboy. Like the Cowboys nation is not going to be like, why'd they hire a black? I mean, it's
no, not
it's
the
more
fan.
about, like you said, taking attention away from Jerry.
Bro, he fired Jimmy Johnson after he won a Super Bowl. Who does that? Name another sport where a coach got fired after winning a title in any major sport. Baseball, hockey, basketball. Go.
Yeah, I've never heard that before.
It's never happened. He's the only owner organization to ever fire a coach after winning a Super Bowl. He won it, and he fired him because he was mad that Jimmy Johnson was getting all the credit. So you think if Dion come in there, let me give you a scenario. Let's say Dion come in there and they win, they go 13-4 or 14-2, and let's say they even get to the NFC Championship game. Who do you think they're going? Who do you think they're going to give credit to? They ain't going to say, "Oh, that's all Jerry." They're going to be like, "Nah, that was all Dion." Soon as that happens, it's a wrap. That's it.
So let me
like, I'm not having that.
Let me ask you something real quick. So back to the whole culture question. Why I didn't think the Cowboys culture was like terrible. So does that mean you think the Cowboys culture has been bad for 30 years? Like they just always had a terrible culture?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Now, I joke around and all that, but I have a little bit of seriousness when I say this. Until Jerry Jones passes on, nothing is going to change. I keep telling Cowboy fans that.
As far as what?
Non-Cowboy fans
that. As far as what? Change as far as what?
That they'll never be successful. Like they'll have successful seasons. They'll go.
Yeah, of course they will. They have
12-5. They'll have a season go 13-4. But they're never going to get to a title game. They probably will never get to the Super Bowl. They'll surprise you every 2-3 years and get that one playoff win. Like, oh wow, okay, they won a wild card game.
I guess my question is, if they're good enough to win a playoff game, why can't they get to a title game? Like, what is Jerry Jones doing in the divisional round to prevent them from getting to the title game? I don't buy the theory that he's holding you guys back from getting to the title game. I just think, unfortunately, players haven't just came through. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, why is it that you guys can win a wild card round, but then all of a sudden, well, we have Jerry Jones, so we're not going to win our divisional game? Like, I don't see that. I don't see
how
that.
Come? So answer me this. So how come there's been how many different quarterbacks in 30 years we've had?
Well, it's
all these different players. So it's all those players that came through and just couldn't get it done. That's what you're telling me.
It's called a bad drought. The teams have droughts. You're in a drought. Look,
30. Bro, we're going on like
50-year droughts. There are teams in the Jets. There are teams that are in crazy droughts. And I understand the Jets have gotten to a title game more recently than the Cowboys.
I was going to say that.
The Jets are more of a mess than the Cowboys. I don't think there's any argument on that. The Jets are a mess. They can't even win regular season games. At least y'all have done that.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, I just feel like it's just unfortunate. I mean, there are certain droughts that exist in sports, and this is just one of the droughts. I don't think that it's impossible to get to a title game when you guys have been to multiple divisional games. I just don't think, unfortunately, you just haven't been able to get that one win you need to get to the next one. So I don't know. I'm not defending Jerry Jones. I agree. I think their method and way of doing things is very strange, and if you tell the coach, then Jerry has to also find out. I'm not feeling that, especially coming from a team that has a completely different culture.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, it's kind of just the way the Cowboys do things, whether you want to call it a terrible culture or not. It's just how the Cowboys are. You go into that understanding how they are. It's not like you're going there and you're like, what the hell is going on? Everything Jerry Jones does and says has been on display for 20, 30 years. Like, this is who they are. So, like, to me, a bad culture is when you go in and you're just looking around like, what the hell is this? Like the Jets, like this place is a mess. This place is like the Cowboys. There's no surprises. Like, you know what you're gonna get. Jerry Jones makes the rules.
Even that being said, that you know what you get when you go to Cowboys, you know what you're getting, and you know what it is. Is that conducive to winning Super Bowls? Is that conducive for winning culture?
Super Bowls, it's tough to win Super Bowls, man. I mean,
okay. Let's just take away the Super Bowls. Is it conducive as a winning culture?
Let me ask you something.
Is that a recipe for a winning culture?
That's a good question. Let me ask you something. Would you agree that one of the best ran organizations is Pittsburgh?
Yes, I agree.
They're it's not extremely long, but bro, they haven't won a playoff game in almost 9 years. That's a crazy drought for an organization that's supposed to be on their P's and Q's all the time. Ownership doesn't butt in. Have stability at the head coach position. Organizations are just going to go through these things, man. Like the Patriots,
Yeah,
for
but you
example,
also you're not mentioning though how Mike Tomlin has also never had a losing season, barely misses the playoffs. There are teams in the league that barely make the playoffs and barely have winning seasons. So I get it because you have high standards, as you should for
yeah,
your,
of course,
your
as
team.
you
You have
should.
high
I think you
standards.
should too.
You have standards of like, well, the Steelers should be at least contending for a Super Bowl every year.
For
I get
sure.
that, but there's 30 teams in 32 teams in the league. Only one can win it, right? So you almost just hope that, okay, at least every year you're competitive, you're relevant, and that you have an organization and you have a coach that can at least get you to the playoffs, and you have, because the playoffs, it's a new season, everybody's 0-0, can at least get you there on a regular basis. So with Tomlin, he's at least doing that for you. We don't have that. We didn't have that with
You don't think the Cowboys over the last 10 years have been a consistent playoff team?
no, because I mean,
Or
Mike
maybe
McCarthy,
6 out of 10, or maybe 7. I'm not sure actually.
McCarthy made it 3 out of the 5 years, which
Which
is
is
not
pretty
bad.
consistent. Yeah,
I
pretty
think
consistent.
Jason Garrett only made it at a 10 years like 3 or 4 times. He only made it like 3 or 4 times.
I'm looking right now since, I guess we would say since what, 20, let's say since 2014, they've
When
made the
did Garrett take over? Go by when Garrett took over.
Garrett took over. Well, he came in mid-season with Wade Phillips. Let's go with the first season he actually became the
Right.
full-time head coach, which was 2011.
Okay.
So 2011, they finished third. They finished second in 2013. So they actually didn't make the playoffs until Garrett's fourth season, which was the unfortunately the Dez
Right.
the Dez year. Yeah. So over the last 10 years, the Cowboys have made the playoffs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. 6 in 10 years.
Right. That's with McCarthy and Garrett.
Yeah, not
Right.
terrible. I mean, I understand you probably want a little bit more consistency. I think the Steelers have made the playoffs, I think 7 out of the last 10 with no wins. So,
Right.
yeah, they've made it. So, yeah, since 2014, 1, 2,
Now, I
3,
did see
4,
an
5, 6,
interesting
7
chart
times.
on Cowherd when they were comparing Tomlin and McCarthy, and which was crazy. They almost had
They're
equal.
the same,
Yeah, they're pretty much the same coach.
but they're not looked at the same. They're not looked at the same at all.
They're not. No, because Tomlin's looked at like this.
Yeah, that's one of the best coaches. And I've always thought McCarthy was a good coach, but like
Right.
he doesn't get looked at that way. But I think the main difference between those two and why they're looked at differently is because McCarthy has kind of always had a good quarterback.
Right.
Like McCarthy hasn't necessarily elevated teams like for example, Tomlin, bro, there were teams with Duck Hodges and like he got teams with Mason Rudolph to the playoffs. Like McCarthy's not doing that. McCarthy needs like his QB to be in place, and he's always had a QB. When's McCarthy not had a QB? He's went from Rodgers to Dak.
Right.
Whereas, right.
Dak to Caleb, so he's gonna always have a QB.
Oh yeah, right. If he goes to
Right.
Chicago, but yeah, see, the Steelers haven't really had a quarterback in their prime for the last 6 years. So I think that's the difference. I feel like people feel like Tomlin maybe gets more out of less. That's the only difference. But win percentage wise, they're the same.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, look, man, like I said, as long as Jerry's there, nothing's going to change for Cowboy Nation. And I think Cowboy fans slowly but surely are starting to realize that the reason why we haven't been to at least a title game or we haven't been consistently going to the playoffs or winning is because of Jerry. Like, because of his antics and what he's done, either decisions he's made for the team or just
he's made some good ones. There's a lot of good players on that roster.
Yeah.
We got to give credit where it's due too. Like, I'm not defending Jerry Jones. I don't really care. I understand that I wouldn't want to be in a situation as a fan where Jerry Jones was our owner and like he's also the GM. Like, no. But at the same time, like, the Cowboys haven't lacked good players, man. I mean, you've had multiple All Pros and Pro Bowlers on that team, especially if you're talking last season with Diggs and Micah and Dak and all these players like, DeMarcus Lawrence, I know he's not the same caliber as he was, but like, the Cowboys they haven't had roster issues. They've had, if anything, they need different coordinators. Like, for example, I thought for the most part, what's the Commanders coach's name?
Dan Quinn.
I thought I think you would agree, he did a really good job with that defense.
Great. He was awesome. He was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I had hoped if they were going to let McCarthy go, they would give him the job. Because I don't know if you heard that report this week too, that apparently a report came out that the reason why Quinn had stayed initially because he thought he was going to eventually get the head coaching job in Dallas. Because he knew that Mike McCarthy was kind of on the hot seat that he'd get a shot. But once Jerry was like, nah, we just wanted you as a DC, he's like, well, I'm out and I'm going to go to Washington. You know what I mean? So that's another thing. Jerry, just even the way Jerry does business, it affects the whole organization because, like, you could have had certain coaches, you could have had certain coordinators, but because of your stubbornness of who you are and how you want to do things and how you want to be in total control, this is what you get. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, no offense to Mike Zimmer, right? But Mike Zimmer, come on, man. Mike Zimmer is,
kind of passing by a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably, I mean, there's reports he's going to retire, which he should. I mean, the guy's almost, 70 or in his 70s? It's like, like, bro, you're hiring a coordinator that's, like, way past his prime. So it's just decisions like that. Like,
so I don't want to steer away from the main question you had as far as who I think would be a good coach there. But before I answer, what do you personally prefer, an offensive coach over a defense? Because you guys have kind of always had I feel like you guys have had a lot of offensive guys. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, because our last.
Would you be okay with Garrett? Would you be okay if they switch it up? Like, man, let's get some toughness. Let's bring a defensive guy in.
I don't mind that, but I always think with defensive kind of coaches, you have to have a good O coordinator in place, right? Like,
for sure.
Like,
wouldn't you say that applies? And sorry to cut you off. Wouldn't you say that applies the other way too? Like, if you have a good offensive coach, you got to have a good D coordinator. It's the same thing.
So I don't, because I think you can have, if you have a really good offense, you could have a okay defensive coordinator. Like, they don't have to be like top 5, but they could be 10 or even into like the 15. If they're like a bend don't break or like an OKD where they're not, they're not like, they're not great, but they're also not bad. They're like in between. If you have a great offense, you can win that way. Because we've seen in the past teams win that way, win Super Bowls, like the Indianapolis Colts, the Saints. Like, they had great offenses, but NFTs were cool. They weren't like, oh my God, like they had some good players on there, but they weren't. They were like 10-ish, 15 and ish, whatever.
Right.
In that way. So I think when you have an offensive coach and you have an okay D coordinator, you could still win that way. Whereas, like, if you have a D guy, your O has to be on point. You can't have a O coordinator just like, oh, he's okay. Like, they're like,
that's what the Steelers are going through right now.
I agree. Yeah,
which proves you'll probably you can make the playoffs, but you're not going to be a real threat.
Yeah, you're not going to be a real threat. You're not going to do anything. If you have that O on point, that O is like, clicking, and your D just okay. Like the Commanders D. If you have a good offense and the D is like the Commanders, you can win that way. You can go to the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't think it works both ways. I just think with a D guy, your O coordinator has to be on point.
So you prefer an offensive guy?
I do, because I mean, I agree with you. I do love the toughness of a defensive coach and what they bring, but again, if you're not on point with the, if your offense is not on point and your D is great, yeah, like you said, you can go to the playoffs, but you're not going to be that much of a threat. You'll pretty much be one and done.
I just feel like the Cowboys should just try something a little different. That's my reasoning. They've always been offensive. Oh, I guess since Parcells, which was a while ago. That was a while.
So with that all being said, who do you think they should go after as coach, or who should be the coach there?
That's tough. I was looking at some like defensive candidates. Now I understand that Aaron Glenn has been tied to the Jets. It looks like he's probably going to get that gig. He used to play there. Like, it makes a lot of sense for Aaron Glenn to be the Jets coach, and I hope it works out. I'm not confident.
Jets or Saints, but I'm already leaning to him more as the Jets.
He played on the Saints too, so that also would make sense.
I heard the Saints really want him really bad. I heard he's like, their top guy, but
I've also heard Jason Witten's name. I was like, huh.
No, so the Jason Witten thing, I think people blew that out of proportion. So the story with the Jason Witten thing was the plan originally was if they were going to keep McCarthy, they were going to bring Jason Witten in to kind of learn under McCarthy, like how to be
Okay.
head coach. I think he would have been some kind of, like a tight ends coach, or not like even a coordinator. He would have been like one of the tight ends coach or something. But I guess the thinking was once McCarthy was, if they would have resigned him and McCarthy's contract was up with, let's say they weren't doing that well, he would be like the heir apparent.
Gotcha.
But I think now is that Jerry doesn't want to do that. He's coaching high school. You're not going to bring a high school coach to the NFL. Like,
yeah. Although, yeah, unless you're okay with going with a guy that doesn't really have like head coaching experience.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. I don't think Jerry's going to do that. That's one thing I'll give you. Like, I don't think Jerry wants to go that route. Like, he would more want to bring him in, just like he did Garrett. Like, remember Garrett? He made the old coordinator. Phillips was the coach. It was like he likes to do stuff like that. Because I know Jerry's pattern. That's how he works. Like, if it's a former Cowboy, he likes them and he thinks they can be good, he'll bring them in slow. He's not just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna throw you out there. You know what I mean? Like Deion's different because Deion's been coaching college, so he has the head coaching experience. Where, I agree with. I don't know if he's an X's and O's guy, but at least Deion has the experience. So you're not like, oh well, he doesn't have any. He does. You know what I mean? So
So with that said, I would take a look at Aaron Glenn. I think there's a lot of momentum there. I like what he's done in Detroit, especially with all the injuries they've had. Seems a player's coach and an X and O's guy defensively, which I love. If not, I honestly think a sleeper candidate for the Cowboys could be Joe Brady, who is the Bills' offensive coordinator. Especially if you're looking for a guy that's a creative play caller. Obviously, he's done a really good job in Buffalo. If you're thinking that the Cowboys go offensive, and of course, from everything I'm hearing, I don't think the Ben Johnson thing's really going to be a thing.
That's what I went Ben Johnson. Everything you're saying about the creativity and all that, yeah. But I'm hearing Ben Johnson is more leaning towards the Raiders.
Excuse me. Yeah, but I think a Joe Brady would be a good fit there too. I don't know if you would be happy with that simply because of what you've seen in Buffalo. Like if that would be good enough for you.
Yeah, no, I'd be okay with that. Yeah, you know what I mean. I'm okay with giving coordinators a shot. You know what I mean?
I think that's. I mean, if you're not going with a person that was a former head coach and just got fired as head coach, the other way would be going a coordinator. I think
that's the problem. I think Jerry's thing is he does not do that. He doesn't really hire coordinators to become coaches. He always hires retreads, like guys. Oh, I want a guy that won a Super Bowl. He wants the guy that has.
Well, Garrett was
right. Garrett was different. You're right, but for the most part, he's always hired guys that won Super Bowls or had some kind of winning. You know what I mean? They won. He doesn't.
Phillips, older guys.
Garrett was an anomaly, and he was also a former Cowboy. So Garrett was an anomaly, but for the most part, Jerry wants to always hire somebody that's won Super Bowl. That's why you heard Gruden's name and Pete Carroll's like, what? Like, why? Like, no, Gruden, stay out the league. Like, bro, I don't want to see no racism on the team. You know what I mean? And then Pete Carroll's almost 80. Like, no.
Yeah, nah, he needs to just retire.
Yeah.
So, real quick, you would not be happy with Deion. You would not be happy with that.
I don't know how I feel about Deion. I agree with you. I think it'd be more just of a spectacle.
Oh, I'm watching every Sunday. I'm watching. I can see him wearing a cowboy hat. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be that could be enough to persuade Jerry. That could be enough
to do what? To persuade him to do what?
To hire Deion. Just screw it. We're gonna be the top story ever.
Okay. I mean,
that could be,
I don't know. Like you're right. I don't know if Deion's really an X and O's guy. Like you said, culture. He's probably really good. He's gonna be a player's coach. They're gonna love playing for him. But
is that enough for you? Like if players love playing for you. That could eat.
Yeah, but I mean, you got to know how to do something. Like, give me something. Like, okay,
not if you have coordinators.
If you if you have the coordinators, fine. But if he has let's say he has okay coordinators, he's not enough. No, you know what I mean. Like, you could talk all you want, do all the I'm prime and all that. That's fine, but is that winning us games? Like,
if I had to pick something for selfish reasons, I wouldn't mind seeing Deion.
Everybody wants that.
Would it be the right decision?
Country wants that.
I don't know if it'd be the right decision.
Like Deion and like they like how what Deion's in the college. They want that, but I don't know what he really brings. I mean, like you said, you'll watch every Sunday. It'll be exciting. It'll be a lot of great sound bites, but
then if you guys aren't good, that's going to wear off quick.
Exactly right. Like let's say all right. Let's give a scenario. Jerry hires him first year. He goes 8-9. It's like,
Yeah.
okay.
We'll be
Like,
over it by then. Like, yeah, prime time is old.
yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, like that only lasts for like maybe, I don't even say a half a season, maybe like a quarter of the season, like a few
Only in the fall.
yeah.
After that.
Once October's over, it's like, yeah, okay, we're done with that. Like, yeah, we're good.
Yeah, that's only going to last so long. Dion has to get off to a good start. Like if
Has-
y'all start like 4-0, oh man, that's going to be amazing. Like yo, you agree with me though? If y'all start off well with
Yeah,
Dion,
well, I mean, listen, I'm a fan. I want us to be good. I
yeah,
if he comes in and does what you just say he has great coordinators and that culture and his whole him being a player's coach and how his personality if that works, great, awesome. I won't. You will not hear me complain. I don't even care, even if he's not an X and O's guy. Whatever he's doing is working. So,
exactly.
you know what I mean? I just want us to win. You know what I mean? So I'm like, yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
He can say whatever. He can curse on the media. I wouldn't even care. I'd be like, well, we're winning. I don't care. We're
Right.
6-0, so who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, man. Before we get out of here, we're gonna have to talk about your team. Now, normally we don't see or hear about your team in the bad light, especially like controversy or in the headlines. But this week, man, it's been like all these different reports coming out. So
It's always like that, right? Yeah.
yeah. So of course, let's get to the first thing. So the first report was apparently during the season it wasn't so kumbaya between Russell Wilson and Arthur Smith that apparently they really weren't seeing eye to eye, even though in the media they projected in the public we thought, oh, everything's all good for what they said. But I guess there was this report where an insider was saying that they really weren't seeing eye to eye, and a lot of the reasons why you saw that kind of slump at the end by you guys, especially on offense, was because I guess Russell didn't like a lot of the play calling Arthur Smith was doing, and they just really weren't, gelling or seeing eye to eye. So we'll just start with that. Give me your just thoughts on that.
Yeah. I've done some deep insider work with everything.
Gotcha.
I like to consider myself like a poor man Steelers insider, you know?
Yeah, you are, because you know a lot. You do know a lot.
Right. So a couple of things here. So one, I do think there's some truth to it. I don't think they saw eye to eye on game planning, but a lot of that stems from Arthur Smith wanting Justin Fields to stay in. I think he thought, yeah, I think that he thought they had enough momentum. He saw enough good things. Now, we saw it live, and I think there was a lot to be desired in the passing game when we watched the Steelers, right? When we went to watch the Charger game. But I think Arthur Smith was like, well, there's something here. He's still young. He's doing things better every week. In fact, the game before they got benched was against the Raiders. They destroyed the Raiders. And then the next week was when Russell started. But that game, Justin didn't pass for a lot of yards, but he had a really good overall game, high completion percentage, ran the ball. And I think Arthur Smith likes that versatility because he's like, well, like Russell can like run sometimes, but he's not really a mobile quarterback anymore.
No.
So that limits the playbook, right? That limits what they can do as an offense when you have a guy that, especially since Arthur Smith is a run first kind of OC. So he schemed up a lot of plays that were, run dependent. Like, ooh, all right, well, some RPOs, for example, So that's where I think a lot of it stems from too. If you're dealing with a veteran quarterback like Russell Wilson, who's been in different systems, who's been in the league for 13, 14 years, who has a Hall of Fame-ish type resume, we'll see if he actually makes it one day. He kind of has his own ways, right? Like there'll be a lot of times he would audible out of plays, and I'm sure that's never anything that an OC likes to see, especially from somebody they probably don't feel like has deserved that right on at least on the Steelers to do it. Whereas with Justin Fields, he called what he wants, just now that could be a bit of a negative because it's like, well, Justin Fields doesn't really they don't trust him with the offense enough to plays. But you could look at it two ways, right? For him, it's like, well, he's going to run the plays that I think are best for us on offense, whereas Russell Wilson wasn't always doing that. So I think that's where some of that rift came from. He just wanted Justin Fields from the jump, and he still there's a lot of momentum right now with Justin Fields being the quarterback in the future, which I'm actually okay with. As you know, I vocalized that I wanted Russ to come in just to see what if we get a little bit more out of the passing game. But I think with Fields sitting the rest of the year, from seeing some good things early on in the season, I'm hoping he's just a year better, more in the playbook. I'm hoping they go that direction, and I know the OC wants it too. So I think that's where a lot of that issue stemmed from.
All right. So before we move on, because I'm gonna be quick with this. Before we move on to the next issue in Pittsburgh. I'm gonna give you the analogy Colin Cowherd gave this week. So we're both married men, right?
Mm-hmm.
So obviously we would never want to divorce our wives and nothing to ever go wrong. But
Mm-hmm.
let's just say it happens, right? And you get married again, and the same issues happen, bro. You're the problem. And what I see in this scenario is that Russell Wilson is the problem. You were in Denver, you couldn't get along with Sean Payton. Now I have my feelings about Sean Payton. I'm not a Sean Payton guy.
Did a solid job this year, though.
Yes, I'll give him. He did a great job this year.
Mm-hmm.
I have my issue with Sean Payton, but you couldn't that didn't work. Now you come to Pittsburgh, you have another issue with another OC, and even we can go back further. Now, of course, I don't think he's a good OC. I think he's horrible. Hackett, you know what I mean, who's not good, but you have problems with him as well. My thing is this: if you're going between different coaches and coordinators, and there's always some issue or some kind of odds or some kind of whatever y'all ain't seeing eye to eye, it's you, bro. And I think it's hard for us as an adult sometimes to admit that. We always want to think it's the other person or some situation. No, bro, it's you. Like, this is a very simple thing. It's really not complicated. Russell Wilson is the problem, right? And I heard you say, oh, he's a 13, 14-year vet. He's set in his ways. Well, bro, you're a vet, right? You're prime and your past. You're not that guy anymore. People know that. We as fans, even not Pittsburgh fans, we know you're not that guy anymore. First of all, people thought you were washed when you came to Pittsburgh. So, yeah, bro, I just think it's one of those things like, look, your time is come and gone, and you, like you said, I agree with you. You don't have that right to call audibles and do all this stuff where you're not Mahomes, you're not Josh Allen, you're not Lamar, you're not on that level.
Not at this point of your career, no.
No. So you should accept whatever the OC is telling you or giving you to do in the game. And I think part of the reason why you guys went into that slump and we're losing at the end was because of Russell Wilson. I'm not saying solely was on him.
Not all him, right? But there's
obviously there was some things with coaching and defense and there. You hear things about effort. I get all that, but ultimately, if any situation, same thing with me. If I go to different jobs and at every job there's been an issue, well, I'm the problem. And like I said, it's hard for us as human beings sometimes to admit that to ourselves that we are the issue, that you got to look yourself in the mirror. So I just think this is a classic case of, look, Russ is past his prime. You're right. He helped you for what you wanted. It was in the passing game, getting you to the playoffs. You saw what he can do. But I think that this experiment's over. I agree. Go forward with Justin Fields. He's a future. If you don't think he's a future, then you got to be creative and come up with other ways. You're going to fix this. But Russell Wilson going forward is not the answer. It's just it's over.
Yeah, I think we saw enough to know it wasn't. And do I think it was the right decision? I mean, in hindsight, it's always easy to say like, no, they should have kept Fields in there. But they did some good things with Russ early on, for sure. Right. I mean, there was a point where they were averaging over 28 points a game over a 6-7 week stretch. So I don't necessarily think it was the wrong decision. But there is a part of me that's like, what would it have been like if they kept Fields in there? Because ultimately, once again, like he changes the dynamic of the offense. And another thing with Russell Wilson, and he's been doing this, has been his reputation for quite a few years now. He doesn't utilize the middle of the field in the passing game. So a lot of those passes you would see are always outside, outside the hash marks. So like the versatility on offense actually just wasn't there towards the end of the year once defenses started to pick up on that. Mm-hmm. And like, once again, you don't have to plan to defend a running quarterback like you would with Justin Fields. So I'm hoping they stick with him and just roll with him, but we'll see, because right now I have no idea what the Steelers are going to look like on offense next season. No idea. Right. They're not going to have Najee. They're not going to re-sign him. So,
and then you're probably not going to have Pickens either, because it's just
they shouldn't. They got to get rid of him.
Yeah, you got to move on
now, which means you have a glaring hole at like you have one of the worst receiving units in the league. Might be the worst.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You might have if you get rid of Pickens, you might have the worst. So they're going to have to really get drafted. Be very dependent on the draft, and maybe like, hey, how interested would Devontae Adams be? He's already said he'd love to play for Tomlin.
Right.
Tyreek Hill is, how would he fit into the Steelers culture? I mean, he's kind of a diva guy. He's not as like, I should give Tyreek a little more credit. He's not like immature necessarily, but he's definitely like a diva. Like, he's going to want the ball. So
Yeah.
yeah. Are
Sure.
you okay? Is that going to pair well with a potential Justin Field? You have to analyze that too.
Right.
So, yeah, I think they'll be active. Remember, people got us like they tried to get Brandon Ayuk, like they tried to
Right.
improve the unit. It just didn't work out. So I think they're going to be very aggressive again.
Right. I think the last thing before we get out of here, I'm sure you're tired of hearing it. You hear this every year. Of course, there's reports now too that teams are considering trading for Mike Tomlin. I know
Mhm.
we had a personal conversation just through text that obviously, you're like, yeah, that's just talk. We don't think he's going nowhere. But just, I know you're a Steelers fan, but just give your non-biased opinion. Do you think it's time for a new voice there? Do you think it's like Tomlin's been there long enough? Feel like, I mean, nobody's saying he's not a great coach. He's had a great legacy. His legacy is cemented, right? I've already listed the things he's done as far as you guys, never having a losing season, making the playoffs almost every year. But do you think it's just time for a new voice in the organization?
I do. I've thought that for a couple of years now, and you can ask some of our closest friends. I've been seeing it for quite a few years because I haven't missed a snap of Steelers football in probably a decade now. I've missed one game, so I'm watching everything. I'm listening to all the podcasts. I'm listening to all the insiders. That doesn't necessarily mean that they should let him go, but I'd be okay with it, is what I'm saying. And he has a no trade clause in his contract, so he's not going anywhere unless he gives it
That's
the
crazy
okay.
that coaches have a no trade clause. When I hear
I
that,
think it's crazy that coaches can be traded. That's so weird to me.
right?
Right?
Is NFL the only? Because I've never heard of it like in the
I
NBA.
think it's the only league that from what
Yeah, like
I'm not
in
100%.
baseball, I've never heard of it. Yeah,
Like, yo, Phil Jackson just got traded for Greg Popovich. Blockbuster. That'd be a blockbuster trade. Like,
it would.
whoa, that'd be
That would be.
blockbuster.
That would be. Yeah, but yeah. So the NFL is the only league then.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
like, bro, if of course we're talking all hypotheticals, you mean to tell me if I hear that like, oh, Mike Tomlin just got traded for Sean McVay, I'm like, let's go, man. We're finally
Yeah,
gonna.
but a lot of times the coaches get traded for like picks,
I
right?
guess I said hypothetically. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
With the trade.
It's not bad either. Don't get me wrong. You giving first round picks to me, I'm gonna listen. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah. I don't. I think. Look, man, we've all been in relationships, whether it's romantic relationships or like work, where like things aren't necessarily bad. Just like the Steelers, unless you consider what they're going through right now bad. I mean, sure,
Well,
but
this is
like,
the first I've seen. Okay, I'm just talking from a fan. I'm not a
yeah.
fan of the Steelers. Just from the outside
But
looking in.
just real quick before I lose my train of thought, like it's okay to want to move on. Like we've all been at jobs, and then you're in a relationship, you feel like it's getting kind of stale. It's not like y'all are arguing all the time. It's not like somebody's verbally or physically abusive. It's just like, hey, like we've turned into different people. Like I think we should just move on. And I think that's what's kind of happening in Pittsburgh. And I think I've never said this. I actually think for the first time starting next season, there will be a hot seat ish type of thing for Tomlin. I think he has to win a playoff game next year. 100%. If it's the same thing again, I think they part ways.
Yeah, so I'm sorry. I was sorry to cut you off. Yeah, I was going to say when you were saying, I know you made the statement like, well, is this the worst we've ever seen in the Steelers? From a fan that's not a fan of you guys, from an outside looking, to me, it is the worst time because I've never seen you guys as much in the headlines. Because normally it's just more like, yeah, they'll say, oh, should Tomlin come back? It's just always that. It's never like players or they should get rid of this player or, because Tomlin's always been like every year, should he come back? Should the Steelers let him go? It's been like that for the last like 5 years. But I think more now you're starting to hear like now it's like player issues and like you said, Najee and George Pickens are probably not going to come back. Whereas like in the past you may have one player like AB was the only issue. Like, oh, okay, it's just one player, so who cares? But to me, this is like the worst I've seen you guys as far as like in the headlines and controversy. And I think a lot of people I'm talking about non-Steeler fans, people just from the outside looking in are saying like, yeah, should they just blow the thing up? Should they just start over? I mean, yeah, Tomlin's been great for them. His legacy's cemented. He won a Super Bowl. He's been a great coach for you guys. You know what I mean? Like you said, a lot of people he's a player's coach. People love playing for him. People want to play for him. But like you said, sometimes you just need that new voice.
Mm-hmm.
You just need something different. You got to switch it up sometimes. Like you said, it doesn't always have to be because things are going crazy bad. You know what I mean? And things
Yeah,
are
right.
okay.
In fact, you want to get out before it gets too bad.
Correct. And I think this is what I'm sensing. This is just me as like I said, I'm not a Steelers fan. I'm just from the outside looking in, looking at reports. it just seems like a lot of things are starting to come to light and like
Mhm.
starting to rear the ugly head. Like, okay, yeah, it's starting to get to. It's not bad. It's not what you're saying. Like, it's not at a point where it's like, oh my god, okay, yeah, we gotta get rid of him. But like you said, you may want to start before it gets worse. You know what I mean? Because like you just said, next year, let's say you're in the same situation next year. Then I think you have to move on.
Yeah, I think they
I mean,
will. I think they
yeah,
will.
I think you have to. I
Yeah.
don't think you even have a choice. So
No. I mean,
yeah,
if I'm Tomlin too, like, bro, you can also be like, hey, this. One thing I hope this, it's gonna happen, but there better not be any criticism on the Steelers letting him go if they do. Like, bro,
right,
he's been there for 20 years. So,
right,
like, I think, and the Steelers have had 3 coaches in the last 60 years almost. So, like, there should be no criticism on the Steelers end. If anything, they're getting criticized right now for being too loyal, you know?
right,
But
right.
one thing the Steelers have to do is they're going to have to make some significant changes in the coaching staff. Like, one, you're going to have to get a. I think they got to find a new defensive coordinator, and two, they got to get a new offensive line coach because they're a disaster when it comes to especially run blocking.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to have to make some really tough decisions with the staff because if they don't, they're just going to be the same team. I'm okay with keeping Arthur Smith. He's only been there 1 year. I saw enough good things
So
throughout the
you didn't
season.
like Terrell Austin as the DC.
Nah, I don't. No, because I don't think he adjusts well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think. I think once you figure out the Steelers' defense, like for example, you saw it towards the end of the year. Once they get figured out, they just don't adjust well.
Mm-hmm.
They play way too much zone. I don't think they don't blitz at the right time. Look, I'm not a defensive coordinator, so I'm not going to
Right,
act like I know more than Terrell Austin does. But yeah, you're going to have to make some tough decisions. In fact, what they should have done, once again in hindsight, they should have kept Brian Flores and made him the defensive coordinator.
right,
That's what
right.
they should have done. So yeah, they're going to have to make some tough decisions there because honestly, man, even with the offensive coordinator, like yeah, like I said, I liked what I saw out of Smith, but like they haven't really had a great offensive coordinator, in my opinion, since Todd Haley, and he ain't
Right.
been there since 2017. So,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
thing is, unfortunately, one of the stain, if you want to call it a stain on Tomlin's legacy, he doesn't have a coaching tree. Like, what's a young assistant coach that's came up from the Steelers that got a head coaching job?
Yeah, you're
Not
right.
legit, not one. Because
Right,
everybody he's hired, like Todd Haley, he was a head coach before. He was an
right.
OC before. Dick LeBeau. I don't have to talk about where his
Yeah, but I
resume.
mean, okay, just not to just to play devil's advocate. Cowher didn't really have a coaching tree. He was a great coach. Who did Cowher have? Because
Well,
he
that's true.
because Dick LeBeau was there when Cowher was there. Remember, that's how old Dick LeBeau was because he was there for
Well,
both.
no, well, Cowher hired LeBeau because you had guys like Tim
Right,
Lewis
but
there.
wasn't he with he was a Cleveland Browns right head coach before that, wasn't he?
Well, he became no, he was the Bengals head coach.
Right, I'm sorry.
No,
The
you're
Bengals,
right. You're right.
right,
And that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's necessarily a stain on the legacy, but I brought that
right,
up to say like there haven't necessarily been young hot assistants coming up in the ranks with the Steelers. So like you have to really make sure that you got to bring in an outside guy when it comes to the defensive coordinator. This what I'm
right,
saying.
right,
Like
right,
um, unless Tomlin just wants to be the guy. Unless I mean, heck, he was a defensive coordinator before he got this job.
right, right,
I don't see that. I don't see Tomlin being the defensive play caller. I just don't.
mhm,
He's done it in spots like I forgot what the situation was. It was like legit, like the defensive coordinator was like sick or something, so
right.
he did it. But yeah, they got some questions, man. They got to get rid of Pickens. They got to get rid
Yeah,
of.
well, that's a no brainer.
Will they go? I don't know because they're going to be like, well, he's young. No, man, it's like every week it's something. Like after a
Yeah,
while, it's a trend now. At least with AB, one the problems came later. Like remember the
right,
first five
right,
6 years, AB was cool. It was great. It
right,
was fun. The issues came later, and at least you could say he was so good. Like he was all pro good. So
right.
like, we'll just deal with it. It's like Randy Moss. You just deal with it.
AB was more of the money, right? It was more he was just complaining about his right because he wanted
Yeah,
to get
but even
paid.
when he got paid, well, you saw what happened when he got paid by
Right,
other teams too. I mean, he's
right,
still
right,
acting up.
right, right,
But yeah, I think for him, I just think he wasn't built for stardom, man. Some people don't handle stardom well, and he was a
right,
superstar,
right, right, right.
and he was a guy that you tolerated because he was so good. Like I was saying, like you got Randy Moss, you're just gonna deal with it. You know, he's like, yeah, it's Randy Moss.
As you're saying with Pickens, he's not even on that
No,
level.
he's not worth it. He's good. He's talented, but
Right.
he ain't done enough to be like, man, we got to keep this dude.
Right.
Because ultimately, that's going to hurt the locker room. And
oh yeah, I mean, some of the things he said, especially toward the end of the season. I mean, he was like throwing people under the bus. Like you can't throw your coach and throw the quarterback.
Yeah, you got to move on from that.
And don't get me wrong, we all have our feelings of how we feel about things sometimes, and it's a place and time to say that stuff. But when you're in the media, of course, you have to kind of be encouraging and still be like, all right, you know, like I know what's going on, but let me still try to be positive. You know what I mean?
It's a part of your job. I mean, if you're an athlete, talking to the media is a part of your job.
Just like at our jobs, you can't always keep it real and be like, yeah, this was y'all are terrible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to try to be positive and say, okay, how can we get better? And you know, even if we know things are bad.
Yeah.
So he doesn't seem like he can do that. Like he's incapable of like he just has to say what he feels, and it's like, nah, bro, you can't always say what you feel. You know?
No, you can't.
Nah.
This is be like that. You know that's like the Chappelle skit when keeping it real goes wrong.
Right.
Sometimes just keep it in house. Just keep it in house.
There you go. Right, that's a better thing.
Yeah, we'll see, man. It's gonna be a long off season, but you know, it's also still kind of like low key exciting. Like, man, what are they gonna do? I have no idea. But I do hope Fields comes back. And I don't think anybody's gonna criticize them for going the route of Fields. They'll be like, all right, well, he did some good things as a starter. Just roll with him, see what he can do.
No doubt. Well, man, that wraps it up for another Brothers Got Next. Exciting weekend ahead, divisional round. I guess we'll be talking about if there's going to be some upsets that we see, or if it's business as usual, the favorites were just like, oh yeah,
Joshua Patrick Allen, I need you.
No doubt, bro. But we'll do it again next time.
All right, peace.